Hi guys. I promised you that I would be reading chapters from the Boxcar Children, and we're on Surprise Island. So if you remember, the four kids have gone to grandfather's island that he used to go to when he was a little boy. And they're having a great time. They're exploring. They're making that museum. They've met Joe, the handyman, and there's a mystery about that. Remember they found that big shell pile and they found those bones. And we're on the chapter where Violet wants to learn how to play the violin. She's feeling that it's selfish of her to practice when they're all supposed to be there together. So I'm just going to read and enjoy. The children left Violet feeling happy again and thinking about the little violin her grandfather would surely buy for her. The next morning, Joe got Captain Daniel to telephone Mr. Alden. He listened to the story and thought about his own beautiful violin carefully packed away. But he said to Captain Daniel, "Certainly Violet must have a violin. The only trouble is I'm too busy this morning to go and buy her one." "Joe thinks he could pick one out," said Captain Daniel. "His playing is just wonderful." "That Joe is an interesting man," replied Mr. Alden. "I'll have a talk with him when I come over." "Give him the money for the violin, Captain, and let him buy one if he thinks he can." When Joe came back to the Alden Island with the little violin, Violet was waiting for him on the dock. Joe was sure that Violet would someday be a wonderful player, so he had bought her a fine violin. The rest of the family came flying down to see if Joe had had any luck. After all, they had seen the violin. After they had all seen the violin, Violet shut the door. "I don't think it likes to be outdoors," she said. "I don't think so either," agreed Joe. "Let's take it to the hut and I'll give you your first lesson." "I'll go with you," said Benny. "No, you'd better stay on the dock with us and fish," said Henry quickly. "Are you going to fish?" asked Benny. "Yes," said Henry, who had not thought of fishing until that very minute. "Just think, Benny, we've been here by the ocean 4 weeks and we haven't had a single fishing trip yet." Suddenly, Henry found that he really wanted to go fishing himself. "You will find fish lines and bait in an old box under the dock," called Joe. Luck was surely with Henry. He baited a hook with a clam, then he let down a long line and gave the end to Benny. Almost at once, Benny began to yell and pull away on his line, hand over hand. "Good!" cried Henry, when Benny finally landed the fish on the dock. "What a wonderful fisherman you are, Benny. Wait, I'll take it off the hook for you and put it on a string." "What a big one," said Jessie. "Don't catch many more of those, Benny, or we'll be eating fish for a week." The children sat on the dock for a long time, but nothing happened. "I wish I could catch one," said Jessie. "Another fish like the one Benny caught, and we would have enough for dinner. And I know just how to bake them with dressing." Remember, dressing is sort of like stuffing or like a crunchy topping. "I'm getting tired of this," said Henry. "I'm going to stop." "I'm not," said Benny. "My grandfather told me fishing takes lots of time." "He did take you fishing once, didn't he?" said Henry. "I remember I wanted to go, but I had a lot of schoolwork to do." "He told me that if I think I won't catch a fish, then I will catch one for sure. And so when I do catch one, I'm surprised," said Benny. "I see," said Henry, sitting down again. He tied his own line to the dock, and because he really did not think he would get any fish, he looked out at the boats. Henry had just sat down when Benny shouted, "Hurry, you've got a fish! Don't you see? Pull on your line!" Benny jumped for Henry's line, and before anyone could help him, he pulled in another fish, just like the first one. "Oh, Jessie, isn't that something? They are twins, I guess." "I guess you're the fisherman in the family, all right," said Henry. "You and Grandfather. I don't even know when there's a fish on my own line." Henry put a string through the mouth of the other fish, and Benny carried them proudly home. "Joe can clean them for me," said Benny. "Oh, I can do that," said Henry. "I can clean fish, even if I can't catch them." "Cut them in half, Henry, will you?" called Jessie. "I will go in and start the dressing." Benny would not leave his twin fishes even for a minute. After Henry had washed them, Benny brought them to Jessie and stayed by her side while she put them in a pan. Jessie piled the dressing made of bread, onions, melted butter, and salt on 4 pieces of fish. Doesn't that sound better than the bread and milk they were doing? "I guess they will be good," said Benny, as the oven door shut. He sat by the oven with the dog until Jessie said that it was dinner time. Violet came in, and she put her violin carefully away. But she did not talk about her lesson. Remember, she just doesn't want to be selfish. I really don't think it's selfish to want to play an instrument, but she's just such a sweet girl. What do I smell? She cried. It's the twins, said Benny. They're in the oven. Twins, cried Violet. What does he mean? Jessie opened the oven door and took out the pan to show her. They're done. We can each have half of a fish, she said, and Benny shall have his first because he caught them. She put the fish carefully on 4 plates. I wish Grandfather could see us eating your fish, Benny, said Henry. You're a very good fisherman. He's coming to visit us tomorrow, said Violet. He phoned Captain Daniel and said he would be over tomorrow if it's all right. It's all right with me, cried Henry. And me, said Jessie. But what shall we have to eat? I suppose we ought to have some meat for dinner. I think Grandfather would like to eat just what we do, said Violet. Maybe Grandfather and I could go fishing, said Benny. But we might not catch anything. Grandfather won't have time to go fishing, Benny, said Henry. Let's have dinner from our own garden. Remember those little vegetables we had in the boxcar days, Benny? Oh, yes, little vegetables with melted butter, cried Benny. Let's have vegetables. That's a better idea. Then we'll be sure to have some dinner, said Jessie, laughing. Can you imagine that? Just a bowl of vegetables with a little butter on top, and that's going to be their dinner. But we've always loved listening to what they eat. So that is the end of that chapter, and chapter 10 is called Grandfather's Visit. And I'll be reading that, and hopefully you'll be catching up, and I'll be putting 2 stories on each slide that says story time or read aloud. All right, and you can choose one or the other, or you can listen to both. All right, bye guys.